Hey everybody, Foley here. It's time for the weekly news recap for the 8th to the 14th of July 2024. This week, some updates for you. So, we had a trailer. Excuse me. Good now. No, I'm not. Anyway, we had a trailer this week from Nintendo MEO. Watch it on YouTube, please. Okay. And it's kind of strange because its tone is way off compared to what Nintendo is usually for. All it is this weird guy standing in front of a brick wall. It's creepy. And it's called MEO, and presumably this guy's name is MEO. Anyway, yeah, it's a little scarier than Nintendo are particularly known for. So the consensus around the internet is that it's probably Bloober Team working on it for Nintendo. They have mentioned in the past that they're working on a project for Nintendo themselves. Project M is how they've been calling it, in partnership with Nintendo and so on. We haven't heard anything about that project in a while. On top of that, there are a number of kind of hallmarks, I guess, that you might call them, for like Bloober Team type things. So yeah, this could be a thing from Bloober Team that are working, and they're working on it for Nintendo. You do see that MEO's bag changes expression at the end of the trailer as well. So who knows what that's about? But anyway, that's that. That's all we know about it, which is effectively nothing. Project M, although its budget is significantly smaller than the games we are working on at Bloober Team, is extremely important due to our long-term plans. Mysterious title for Nintendo platforms, codename Project M, and so on. We are working on it in cooperation with the world's best gaming creators, Nintendo, for Nintendo platforms, plural. That's an interesting one. Is it going to be a cross-gen thing, Switch and Switch 2, maybe, or it's just a pretty normal thing to just call things platforms instead of platform? Anyway, that's all we know about it for now. It's more just that's interesting. Moving on. Deathbound has a release date now. It's September at some point. So Deathbound, if you're not familiar with it, is a party-based Souls-like kind of thing. So it's still single player. It's still only one of you. But you have up to 4 skins, if you like. 4 different souls, if you want to go even further into it, that you can swap between. At any time, and then I think there's a cooldown if you want to swap back to them or something like that. But the idea is that you effectively have 4 distinct characters that you can swap in and out of during combat, during fights, during combos, that kind of thing. You know, so you can have like a big, heavy hitting, two-handed dumb guy. You can have like more of a mage type. Maybe you have a range type fighter. Maybe you have more of a dexterous type, and so on. Swap in between each one as you go. So it's an interesting concept. I did play a little bit of the trailer. I played a little bit of the demo. I'm hoping the Steam Deck is not an indication of the game's performance, because it kind of chugged on the Steam Deck, so looks like it performs a lot faster on this. Game assets and fidelity, yeah, it's not a great looker, really. Oh, it's August, actually. Sorry. September must be a different game. We'll see how it works out for them. Bold strategy, cotton, and so on. But I'm intrigued by the idea. It's a different, you want to call it, gimmick for the Souls type games. It's not just another Souls game. It does have something else going for it, and that is important if you want to stand out in that realm. And it does mean that you're not locked into the one build that you've gone for. You can mix and match. So that's interesting. Anyway, that's Deathbound, coming out early in August, next month. Alright, Paradox Interactive delays another game. Paradox Interactive delays City Skylines 2's console edition for the 3rd time, and indefinitely again. Paradox Interactive has once again delayed the console launch of its city builder, City Skylines 2. It was initially intended to accompany the sequel on PC, so that would have been October of last year. So they were both meant to come out at the same time, which obviously did not happen. The console release was then delayed to spring 2024. We're obviously way past that at this point. Was then delayed into October 2024, which would have made it an entire year beyond that, but has now Paradox have withdrawn the release window entirely, so now we have a indefinitely delayed. Much like we had with Life by You, which is also a Paradox thing that was meant to enter early access multiple times, was then indefinitely delayed, then cancelled, and then the team was laid off. According to Paradox, City Skylines 2's console edition, console port, has not yet met the stability and performance targets set for the console release. I'm wondering if these are internal metrics they're using, or if they're platform metrics. So, if you're not familiar with it, getting your game onto console is a little bit more onerous than getting it onto PC, just why you tend to see PC updates happen very frequently and console updates are very infrequent. You have to go through a certification process. The certification process costs money. But on top of that, they test your game, which Steam really just doesn't do. And, I mean, they might claim they do, but they really don't. And it might be that they're failing those stability and performance targets. People who may have been following City Skylines 2's PC edition is extremely unstable. It has improved since launch, but when it launched, it was in a very bad state. So it's a good question of who is actually pushing back on these stability and performance targets. Is it Paradox themselves, or is it Sony and Microsoft, so on? We have not yet met the stability and performance targets we set for the console release. Without a release candidate, we are now unable to meet an October release window, yada yada yada. It's effectively the same message they had for Life by You. It's kind of why I put it in here, because I'm not particularly interested in City Skylines, but I am interested in Paradox being assholes. We're wondering again, is this a precursor to there won't be a console port and lay off the team? Maybe. We shall see. El Paso Elsewhere is coming to... This is the September one. El Paso Elsewhere is coming to PlayStation 5, September 6th. So El Paso Elsewhere is available on PC, Xbox. I think it's on Switch as well, but I'm not sure. But now its exclusivity is up, I guess, and it's going to be on PlayStation at the beginning of September for $30. Additionally, there is going to be a physical edition of the game if you're interested in that kind of thing as well. El Paso Elsewhere we played on the channel recently enough. It is a homage to kind of Max Payne type games. So you're like PS2, mid-90s PC, third-person shooters. Very bombastic. The setting, or the gist of the game's plot, you're playing a kind of hard-boiled detective type thing. He's trying to get clean of drugs and so on. It's going after his girlfriend, who is Dracula, queen of the vampires, king of the vampires, whatever you want to go with it. She's trying to usher in the end of the world in this motel in the middle of nowhere in El Paso. You're the only person who knows about it. You need to go and stop it. And to do that, you need to take a lot of drugs. And these drugs help you slow down time. I know this seems like a really ridiculous, over-the-top story, but the voice acting from the main character is amazing. It's like, it really pulls you into it. It's extremely well done. Strange Scaffold have another game coming out soon called I Am Your Death. I think that's what it's called, which is kind of a first-person arena shooter thing, but it has the idea is that you're like action hero badass, just I'm gonna kill everybody. you don't know what you've asked for, kind of thing. That I have played a little bit of the demo. I thought it was really good. Anyway, El Paso Elsewhere. If you've been waiting for the PlayStation launch, it's soon. Phasmophobia, yes, it's striking while the iron is hot. Phasmophobia's PS5 release is any minute now. So this was supposed to be last year, August and October. It's supposed to be, Halloween. Phasmophobia, PS5, PSVR 2 release. Didn't happen. Been delayed multiple times. The studio went on fire for a little bit, literally. So they had a bunch of issues, obviously, around that. Getting the team back together, getting their equipment sorted out and what have you. So the chances are now we're thrilled to announce that the console update will be released this year, 2024, during our in-game Halloween event. So full year later, maybe we might actually see it launched. definitely hitting at the peak of its popularity right now, Phasmophobia. Maybe it'll eventually find its way out. Maybe it'll get a resurgence of users, players. I mean, it's not like it's a live service thing, right? It's mostly a... I mean, you're meant to play co-op, but you can play it single player, and it has a progression system. Like, you do eventually level up or level out of the game. Can't do anything else. Or you're not gaining anything for doing anything else. So it's not like it needs to have a massive concurrent user base, but if you are going to be playing a co-op, I suppose you do want randos that you can just drop in and out with. Anyway, October, some point this year. Your free game this week on the Epic Game Store is Floppy Nights. It's a good name, okay? Tactics fused with card game mechanics as Phoebe and Carlton, a brilliant young inventor, and her robot arm besties square off in turn-based battles. Select your knights, hone your deck, and execute your strategy for victory. Your strategery. It's Yu-Gi-Oh, but also a tile combat thing. So your arm-based thing is like you put floppy disks into it, and that's where you get your floppy knights from. Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's still a deck builder, really, at the end of the day. If you're into deck builders, not really. But if you are, maybe it might be interesting to you. Do Epic do a review or a like user thing? I've never actually checked, 4.4, it's decent. There's no number on how many captured from players in the Epic Games ecosystem, so they're not critical reviews. But there's also no actual wordy reviews either, so who knows? Or how many of those there were. Anyway, moving on. Monthly games, it is the middle of the month, so that means PlayStation Plus. Game catalog is getting a refresh. So this month's PlayStation Plus Extra and PlayStation Plus Premium games, they're okay. I mean, okay, I'm going to say they're okay mostly because I have the vast majority of them. But of the few that I don't have, they're actually pretty good. So let's start with Remnant 2, or Remnant from the Ashes 2, whatever way you want to call it, is the sequel to the original, Remnant from the Ashes. It is a third-person shooter, co-op, or solo if you want, in a kind of fantastical modern day. It's kind of like modern day, but then you jump to like different planets or different universes or different realms, whatever way you want to put it. And some of them are like lush forests, some of them are like dilapidated modern Earth, some of them are swamps, and so on. You go to like an elven palace, I think, at one point in Remnant 2. I played through the co-op with a friend of mine. It's fine. It's okay. I wasn't really pulled in by it much in the same way the first game. I don't get the appeal. It's a shooter. It keeps trying to. Any marketing I've seen from it kind of tried to say that it's a Souls game, but shooting, and it's just not. This is not at all. And if it's supposed to be, I'm either very good at the game or the game is too easy. Are Souls games meant to be categorized just by how difficult they are, or are they meant to be categorized by the story not making any sense? And you having to sort of do way too much work to make sense of the story? I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. And if you're already paying for the subscription, it's free now at this point. So if you can get like one or two friends together, it might be a good time. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is the remake. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna have to decline it. One sec, guys. Sorry about that, gang. Somebody looking for me. I did actually have to answer that call. All right, anyway. Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core is the remake to the original Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, telling the story of how Zack becomes a soldier first class and then leads up to the events of Final Fantasy VII eventually. So if you're playing any of the remake and what have you, there's some pretty important story events that happen in that game that might give you more information about what's going on in the game proper. The game itself is okay. It runs on a somewhat randomized combat system, so I forget what the fuck it's called now. It's DWM or DDM or something like that, but Zack is effectively the main character. You're playing as him for the entire game, for the vast majority of the game. You're undertaking different jobs from the Shinra Corporation and you eventually work your way up to Soldier First Class, the highest level that you can reach in the combat department. He's kind of thinking about people while he's fighting, and it's sort of a roulette wheel that's going on during the game. And anytime it lands on like a proper character, you get like a super move. It's a weird game mechanic, and I think you can somewhat engineer it by having different equipment on, and it'll have different people and so on. But you effectively do a move that is associated with that character. It's a weird one. We'll be playing it later as part of my Final Fantasy series. Bannerlord, I think, is an RTS. Dark Ages sandbox that combines strategy and action RPG gameplay. Create and develop your own character, gather companions. Okay, it might be a little bit more low level than an RTS, so I don't think you're looking at it as a kind of the king who's directing his armies. More so, you're just one guy who's directing like a band of different warriors, maybe. The Jackbox Party Pack, I'm sure you're familiar with this if you've had to be in any kind of corporate situation in the last few years. Break out a lot of these games for team building exercises, but in and of themselves, just with friends, they can be a lot of fun. Basically just mini games. A lot of them are based around trivia, that kind of thing. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous is Baldur's Gate 3 at home. So it's based on Pathfinder, which is a similar type of tabletop role-playing game, branched off from Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition or 3rd edition maybe, and then became its own thing for a while. But it is similar enough that you won't be too confused if you've played Dungeons and Dragons itself already or Baldur's Gate 3 already. But it's the same type of game, but it doesn't have the same kind of budget. No More Heroes 3 randomly, not No More Heroes 1 or 2, No More Heroes 3, okay. No More Heroes 3, third person hack and slash, kind of irreverent comedy. I think it's Suda51. It's a good time. It's a fun game. It's weird that they're not going with 1 or 2 though. And then Travis Strikes Again is a kind of in-between game. I think it's set between 2 and 3, and it's quite a different type of game. That's all I really know about it. I don't exactly know what kind of game it is, though. Deadcraft is a very, very strange one. It's a third-person kind of hack and slash thing, but the idea is that you can use like the bodies of your slain enemies to sort of craft new abilities and new. I think it just changes up what your arm does effectively. A new twist on the zombie survival action genre in a world ravaged by deadly virus. Half zombie. I don't know how that works, but okay. Must survive anything he can get his hands on, the hordes of the undead, but by growing some zombie followers of his own. Choose your allies and enemies wisely as you try them. Okay, so you can also create ads for yourself, I suppose. Steep, snowboarding game. Think you really need anything else after that. It's also been on PlayStation Plus before. It's coming back. PlayStation Plus Premium is no longer is it just the classics games. This is also where you can get some free PSVR 2 games. So Job Simulator you are probably already familiar with, but it is a kind of a funny sort of... The idea is that it's very far in the future. Human beings don't really work anymore. They have machines to do everything for us, and we live a life of luxury, and you're coming into a museum interactive space to see what it was like to have a job. And it's very dumb and very silly. Summoner is a ridiculous blast from the past. This is a Volition RPG. It's you can summon different things with a summoning ring that you have on your finger. and you are going up against this like evil emperor type thing. It is a very bare bones story, and the combat I quite enjoyed, but it was absolutely clunky as fuck. And there is one section very near the end of the game where you no longer have the main character. He's been captured, and you do this kind of very classic thing at the time for Western RPGs to have the rest of the party go and rescue the main character. The problem is you spent all of your time making the main character this incredible, overpowered thing, and the party members are not. And the game, for some reason, didn't think you would do that. And now you have hit a brick wall and cannot actually progress any further. Ask me how I know. Alright, anyway. Ratchet & Clank Size Matters was a PSP game for Ratchet & Clank. It effectively just reversed the duo's typical paradigm, where Ratchet did most of the heavy lifting and Clank was there for puzzles. It's kind of the other way around, where Clank is now this really big thing, and Ratchet just kind of is there. Jeanne d'Arc was a kind of like a Final Fantasy Tactics type thing, I think. Jeanne d'Arc, originally released on the PSP. Actually doesn't mention what kind of game it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a Final Fantasy Tactics type. Anyway, that's the PlayStation Plus catalog. But those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you wanted to play something now? You can, if you want, play Angerfoot. This is the latest thing from Devolver Digital. It's basically a Hotline Miami type thing, played from first-person perspective. And obviously the deal with it is you have a foot and you kick people really hard with it. As will probably transpire here in the next couple of seconds on this trailer. It's also the Devolver Digital way of doing things, that they're not actually going to show any gameplay and just have really funny animatics. Is there any actual gameplay in this trailer? Oh, okay, there is. So this is what kind of thing is. You have your foot, you do melee, it stuns enemies, sometimes it kills them, and then you shoot them. That's kind of the deal with Angerfoot. But it being Devolver, you obviously have to do really crazy, weird things with your feet. It's a fun time. It's a fun time, but much like Hotline Miami, you make one mistake and you're pretty much done. Anyway, it's good stuff. I believe there's a trailer or a demo for it as well, if you want to check that out. Anyway, that's Angerfoot. And then also released this week is Once Human. Once Human is a free-to-play survival thing. Now, normally, I have very little interest in survival type games, and two, also have very little interest in free-to-play type games, because they tend to be, how do we make our money? We're going to do microtransactions out the shit for you. What I like about the look of Once Human is its universe and its enemy design. The enemy design is really interesting. I think this is yet another trailer that doesn't have any gameplay in it. But it is a survival shooter type thing. So think stuff like, kind of like The Division, I guess, but there's a lot more crafting and survival elements to it on top of that. It still has the kind of shooting. It is, for the most part, a shooter type. Is there any actual gameplay in this trailer? Doesn't look like it. No, there isn't. Anyway. That's the type of game it is, though. It's a survival shootery type thing, but its enemy design is really interesting, and its world design is kind of intriguing. Anyway, and it's also very anime focused there. The game, from what I've seen in other trailers, that doesn't have that kind of heavy J-pop, K-pop kind of vibe to it. I think that might be a Season 1 event thing. Anyway. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. So, Xbox Game Pass and PC Game Pass price increases announced include a new tier that does not include the day one game releases. So, this is kind of just the numbers kind of thing. We're going to talk about why this is shit later in a few seconds. So it's coming into effect now. If you haven't owned Game Pass up until now or had a Game Pass subscription up until now, you will be hit with it, the price increase now, effectively. If you already have a Game Pass subscription, this doesn't come into effect until the middle of September. So whenever you renew it around then or after that, you'll be hit with by the price increase. The change here is that Xbox Game Pass for console is going away, and it's going to be replaced with Xbox Game Pass Standard. However, while the old Xbox Game Pass for console did include day one releases, Game Pass Standard does not include the day one releases and costs more. So there's your breakdown. Xbox Game Pass Core is you just want to play online and that's it. You have no real interest in anything else. There is a rotating roster of games that are free to play, but you don't have access to the full library. But you will need this like at a minimum if you're intending to play online at all in any game. PC Game Pass is probably by far the better deal at this point now, because PC Game Pass does include the day one stuff, but it is obviously just for PC. So if you have a decent PC gaming setup, it's probably the one for you. Xbox Game Pass for console is the old one, which was effectively the same as PC Game Pass, but it was for console. Day one releases, so on. That's disappearing. It's being replaced by Xbox Game Pass Standard, which has gone up by $5 or so. And now no longer includes the day one games. And then Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is not really a great deal, honestly, at that point, but this is also going up by around about a $5 as well. So it's about a $5 in general that everything is going up by. And obviously the fact that the day one releases are not there anymore for Xbox Game Pass console. So if you are planning to play day one releases for Xbox, and you want to do that through the Game Pass, you have to do the Ultimate tier. That's the only real way to do it now, or from September, we'll say. So there's a brief history here of the Game Pass itself. At the beginning, it was felt that this was just a way to distract from the fact that the Xbox One just didn't have any games. So they made the Game Pass this thing where, oh, okay, well, we don't have any exclusives, but you don't actually have to pay for any of the games. Instead, come to Xbox, yeah. Then it became probably one of the best deals in gaming because it did expand pretty well, had a lot of really good games that were included in the Game Pass, and it was able to get a couple of games day one deals and what have you. But now is very quickly becoming another dead end, much like Netflix subscriptions and so on. So at the time, Phil Spencer described Xbox Game Pass as, for us, it's all about how we reach 2 billion gamers. The idea being that they could grow beyond the ecosystem of the Xbox console itself and just have the Xbox just be a brand thing and not be like an also a hardware thing at the same time. They're working their way towards that. There's been a recent Amazon Fire thing where you were able to play Xbox games through the cloud and so on. However, it's falling well short of the 2 billion gamers thing, as it only has 34 million. Now, only 34 million. That is a substantial number, but still, it's a far cry from 2 billion. Game Pass subscribers, according to Digital Trends, if you were to compare this up against like TV subscription kind of things, it'd be around the same level as Peacock. Right, so it's pretty far away from like Disney Plus, Netflix numbers, Hulu numbers. Anyway, why is the price change? Why the removal of day one games? Why all of this stuff? So Microsoft seems to be slamming the brakes on its risky subscription experiment, and is introducing the second price hike in a year. So the first price hike was when they changed Xbox Live, got rid of Xbox Live and turned it into Xbox Game Pass Core, and then threw a $5 on top of it for the laugh. This is another price hike now that's hitting pretty much all of the Game Pass tiers at this point. Can I get rid of this? How do I remove you? You go away. That didn't work. Let me try that again. Go away. All right. All right. So here's the breakdown of it. It's obviously awful, and we've gone through this already. As this is just talking about the stuff that we already talked about, the money changes and whatever. So here we come down to why make this change. So there's a couple of reasons. The big and most cynical reason is Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is coming out later this year. And they want money. And they don't want you getting it for free. So they want you to pay for it. So the idea is, will you pay for Game Pass Ultimate, or will you just buy Call of Duty outright? It's fairly likely it's going to be a 2024 bestseller. My feelings on the game aside, it's going to make a lot of money. Regardless, it's just how much of that money, and I guess they don't want any of that money being left on the table because of Game Pass. Now, how many other games are they going to make that decision for? Will they make the same decision for The Elder Scrolls 6? when it inevitably comes out, will they make the same decision for Indiana Jones? Will they make the same decision for Avowed? That seems to be the way they're going with it. Basically, they're exclusives. That used to be a day one thing. That used to be a really enticing offer for Game Pass has disappeared, and they want the money from it now instead. The $69 billion acquisition of Activision so far has only yielded mass layoffs, fewer exclusives, and really good studios disappearing. But at the same time, it would have brought increased scrutiny from higher ups, from Microsoft corporate rather than the Xbox team. Big Daddy Microsoft going, $69 billion, huh? Nice. Are we getting any of that back anytime soon? Or so this is their attempt to get any of that back anytime soon. So the cynical way to look at it is you spent way too much money on Activision. Now you need to make that deal good for higher ups in Microsoft. You see a big cash cow coming up with Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and you're like, no, we need that money. Yeah, okay, that's not part of Game Pass anymore. Okay, unless you're willing to pay for the Ultimate tier, but I don't think many people are. Anyway, the service that you could recommend to friends and family without qualifiers or caveats at the time, like a year ago, you'd say Game Pass, yeah, it's a great deal. If you have an Xbox or a PC, amazing deal. Definitely get into it. Now you're like, you have a PC? Yeah, great. Let's keep going with it. Do you just have an Xbox console? It's still a good deal. Still a good deal. But you are effectively paying more for less. Which we would call shrinkflation if this was a product, you know? Instead of you getting a 6-pack of something for a tenner, it's now a 4-pack of something for 15, you know? It's that kind of thing. It's like, you know, you're getting a raw deal here. It's turning the service into something that feels more like a toll booth than a bargain. So I thought this was a kind of an interesting way of putting it. Having potentially cannibalized its own console storefront by training some of its players not to buy things, Microsoft is now trying to poison the well just enough to make it seem like buying Indiana Jones or Avowed or Call of Duty or any of those outright is a better deal than going up to the Ultimate tier. Which do you feel is the better tier? Do you want to pay an extra $5 every month? Forever, effectively, until they, of course, inevitably hike the price again? Or are you like, you know what, I'm not all that interested in Indiana Jones, but I do like Avowed, so I might buy Avowed outright, but eh. Or I don't particularly care about Call of Duty, which I don't. So I don't really need to go to the Ultimate tier for that, or what kind of thing. Or I know I really do want Call of Duty, but it's the only game I ever play, so I'll buy that outright and not bother with the Game Pass Ultimate price tier thing. It's weird, because they're now effectively making their products compete against each other, which is very much something you are not supposed to do. But they were doing that anyway with the Game Pass, and now they're just doing it even more. It will also be an interesting question to see. So when they get third-party games on Game Pass, or on PlayStation Plus, or any of those subscription services, they obviously pay that developer or the publisher for potential lost revenue they might have got from just selling the game outright. So there's some deal. Here's X amount of money to put your game on Game Pass instead of sell it directly in the store. And the publisher or developer will go, okay, we could potentially get more money by just selling it ourselves, but here's a lump sum that's guaranteed, and we have bills to pay. Now, which one do you go with? It might be a question that when Game Pass becomes less interesting now, because some of the better games, or the more interesting, more hyped, more better marketed games are no longer part of that subscription, will the payments for Game Pass become less? And then if that's the case, will you start seeing fewer games on the Game Pass, and so on and so forth? Realistically, the whole Game Pass experiment was never really going to work out because of this. We need to grow forever and ever and ever, and they'll always need more and more money. It wasn't enough for them to just make enough money to pay their bills. No, they got to make all of it. And in that case, the subscription was never going to work out. Anyway, maybe they have enough people in their ecosystem that it's good enough. Right, speaking of needing to grow at all costs, even if it means making the game worse, Apex Legends is set to double its battle passes per season and make them only available for real dollar monies. Okay, so they're taking the Disney Speedstorm approach we talked about a while ago, where instead of having a battle pass that lasts the entire season, they cut it in half, and now there's a battle pass that lasts for the beginning to the middle of the season, and a battle pass that goes from the middle of the season to the end of the season. For double the money, of course. And not only that, but you can't pay for it with in-game currency anymore. You have to use actual real money. Fuck you. Alright. Split Apex Battle Pass into two, which makes it two shorter ones per season, but they're only going to be available for real money. So the way it breaks down is that it's going to be a tenner each. You won't have the option to simply just earn it by playing the game. Up until now, it was possible to do that. It would effectively cost you 950 Apex coins. And you could, if you wanted to, buy a bundle of 1,000 Apex coins for a tenner. It's effectively the same thing. However, it was also possible to earn those points just by playing through the game or playing through a battle pass earlier, which you would have enough coins by the end of that battle pass to buy a free battle pass, effectively. That's no longer an option. Now, if you want a battle pass, you have to pay actual money from it. Respawn trying to frame this as a good thing for the player, which it absolutely is not. But anyway, we've seen the numbers and things need to be more tangible and realistic for our global community. Each of these updated aspects makes the battle pass more accessible. More accessible? In what way? Now I need real money, but okay. And valuable for your time and money. Valuable. I'm paying double. Actual real money now. And you've doubled the number of the battle pass. Fantastic. So now if I want to compete everything in the first battle pass, I have half the amount of time to do it. That's value for money, apparently. Okay. The reward should always be worth the time you spend in the Outlands, and that's the case now. It really isn't, but okay. A feeling of accomplishment, that's what that sounds like. The decision to move from Apex coins to real currency was not an easy one. Sure it was. You want money, but it allows us to lower the price of Premium Plus for our community. It allows us to have you pay more. Pay more for this thing that you can now pay more for. Thanks. What? Lowers the price. Lowering the price makes no difference if I was not paying for it in the first place. All this is an additional cost on top of a player of it anyway. Anyway, they did this with the Disney Speedstorm thing. We talked about it then and how it was a bad thing. They're doing the same thing now with Apex Legends. Different companies, same deal. We want more money. They're effectively attempting to double dip, get double the amount of revenue they would normally have gotten from Battle Pass. Even including, or rather removing the ability to get it with Apex coins, they're more than doubling the amount they would get, because the people who would normally buy the one battle pass, finish it, get enough coins then to buy it, get a free battle pass effectively. That's not a possibility anymore. So you're either going to have people with the money maybe they have the money, maybe they don't, but they don't have the, shall we say, restraint to not buy the additional battle passes, or money is no object to them, or Apex Legends is the only game they play, or it's on a renew thing and they actually aren't even paying attention to how much they're paying for it. I don't know. Either way, this is usually an indication that Apex Legends is not making enough money. Not that it's not making money, that it's not making enough money for Respawn, which means EA, really. Like, it's definitely making the money, but is it making them enough money? And what does enough mean? Anyway, continuing with live service stuff, we're kind of going from a different angle here. So Long Dark Dev criticizes Manor Lords for lack of updates. Hooded Horse, publisher, CEO replies that not every game needs to be some live service boom or bust. Yes, preach. Okay, so the publishers of Manor Lords, which is Hooded Horse, recently were sparring with the developers from The Long Dark. It was kind of highlighting the potential consequences in terms of both developer overwork and players losing interest. So Hinterlands, the people behind The Long Dark, CEO Raphael van Lierop, was on LinkedIn, and he was saying, Manor Lords is a pretty interesting case study in the pitfalls of early access development when a game with a small team, which is effectively a single developer, hits the reality of a hungry audience. It launched with a pretty strong base game, but without much content. Because of that, it's been unable to meet the need for expansion. It should have juicy updates and changes closer to launch. As a result, the lack of updates, the concurrent users worldwide have plummeted since launch. But given the huge number of wish lists and hype around it leading up to launch, this is something the developer and publisher should have been better prepared for, IMO. Okay, this does happen in early access. You do get your initial launch, people get interested in it, they play the game, they play everything that's there, and then they go away. Pretty standard, right? Unless you're a live service game. If you're a live service game, you don't want that to happen. If you're a single player campaign thing, you're just selling a box product effectively, that's fine. That's how it works. That's how it used to work for a very long time. You play the game, play as much of it as you want to play, and you're done. You watch a film, you watch as much of the film as you want, and then you move on to next film. You watch a TV show, watch the TV show as much as you want, move on to the next one, and so on and so forth. It wasn't, I'm just going to keep watching this episode over and over and over again. Because I get, I don't know, Star Trek books every time I log in and watch the pilot episode. Like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing you do in TV. It's not a thing you do in film and so on. Anyway, early access is a marathon, and when you launch, you need to have your next major content expansion pretty much in the queue. The other way to look at it is early access is a marathon, and you should not be having so many updates frequently, one after the other, because that sounds more like a sprint to me. Anyway, so Tim Bender, great name, CEO of Manor Lords, publisher Hooded Horse, sees the situation a little bit differently. This is exactly the kind of distorted, endless growth / burden of expectations / line must go up perspective that causes so much trouble in the games industry. The apparently dark reality that some people, after enjoying their purchase of a premium single-player title, might decide to go on and play another game. Oh my god, the horror, exactly. Anyway, they had a chat with the Manor Lords developer himself, talking about when he was going to launch into early access, and I told him that after release he was going to hear from all sorts of commenters talking about missed opportunities because he failed to grow as fast as they wanted, and judging the game a failure by some kind of expectation they had formed. I told him to ignore all of that, focus on his core vision for the game, keep in mind that early access road is long, a marathon, and that he should not feel any sense of pressure from the expectation of others. Those two things, comparing early access to a marathon and having two very different takeaways from it. Not feel any sense of pressure from the expectation of others, for both his own health and stress levels over the coming years, and for preserving the state of calm and peaceful mind that supports his creative vision. If this industry is to find a more sustainable path forward, we need to move away from takes like Van der Ops. Success should not create an ever-raising bar of new growth expectations. Not every game should be aimed at becoming some live service boom or bust, and a release should not begin an ever-accelerating treadmill on which devs are forced to run until their mental or physical health breaks down. Now, these are both kind of good points, but they're coming at it from obviously two very different directions, and I don't think that Tim Bender's point is really addressing Van Lierop. Van Lierop wasn't really going at it from a live service standpoint. He was mostly going at it, you want to keep people interested in the game because you want them to come back when there is an update kind of thing. And you want, the potential for you putting out an update means people who haven't played the game yet might see the update and go, ooh, yeah, right, Manor Lords, I was interested in that. Oh yeah, it's got a new update. That update sounds good. I'll buy it. That's kind of where he's coming from it. And having more of those, and more often, obviously, increases the number of times that people see Manor Lords, see an update about it, might play the game. That's kind of the way they're coming at it. It does feel a lot like the live service thing, where they put out new seasons, new costumes, new whatever, and that has the same effect, really. It's like reminding you about this game. It is advertisement in a way. It is also meant to entice people who have stopped playing the game to come back and play the game. And they have a very similar trajectory. The thing is, once you've put out the game and it's gone gold and you're done with it and you've moved on to develop your next game, you don't really need to keep doing that anymore. It's doing you a disservice and it's distracting people from your next game, and it's going to use up whatever money you have in marketing and advertising and what have you to put out updates for a game that you've moved on from. That's kind of what you would have your marketing team for, to kind of put them in sales or put them in bundles or, do like anniversary editions and shit like that. They both have good points. I do come down from Tim Bender's side more than anything else, is that if you are making a premium single player thing, eventually people will stop playing it. It will happen. They're done. Either they have played everything that's possible to play in the game and they're finished with it, or they played enough of it, went, cool, I'm going to move on to the next thing. Like, it happens. There's like, I don't know what the statistic is anymore, but it's a substantial number of people don't finish games. And that's been true since video games started. Not just because some of them are really hard and you couldn't finish them. But just people have short attention spans. And not only that, much like the same way you don't typically want to eat the same meal, same food for every meal, you want to vary it up. Like, I don't want to play a slow-paced survival thing right now. I want an action-packed something or whatever. Changes. People's tastes change over time. Anyway, my point is, they're coming from two different, distinct approaches. I would obviously favor Tim Benders more than the others, in that you don't need to keep putting out stuff. I would also say, even from the live service end of things, you don't need to keep putting out stuff. It is okay to not make all of the money. It is enough to just to pay your bills, pay your people, maybe give them a bonus for a job well done. That's good enough. That's a successful business. You don't need to create value for the shareholders, guys. Fuck the shareholders. Anyway, moving on. Nintendo's systemic policy of miscrediting is harming external translators. Okay, so this is something that kind of flies under the radar a lot, mostly because no one is really going to bat for external translators or external anything, external developers and so on. We already saw with the company last week, Tosei, who do a lot of ghost work for Nintendo and Square Enix. They don't typically get crediting. At least in the very early games that they made. They do now, somewhat. I think mostly it's just thanks to Tosei. I don't think they actually call out people. But anyway. So these are alleging that Nintendo failed to credit. Failed to credit is interesting. It's an interesting way to classify this. It's not like chose not to credit. Failed to credit. It's like, oops. Anyway, external translators for things like Tears of the Kingdom, Animal Crossing, New Horizons, Super Mario RPG, a lot of very recent games. Multiple sources chose to remain anonymous because obvious reasons, fear of reprisal. Alleged that Nintendo failed to credit them properly for their work on a litany of critically acclaimed titles, despite them spending months translating each project for audiences around the world. So this is how you get games developed in Japan localized for USA or Ireland or the UK or France or Spain or Germany or any of them. It requires these guys, these translators and localizers and localization quality assurance, like massive team of testing and translating and testing the translating and so on. So a person talking here who used to work directly for Nintendo. I was always credited when I was working at Nintendo, but once I went freelance, the company decided not to put the in-house testers in the credits. This was something for like Professor Layton, which was developed by Level 5. Level 5 did not get as much crediting as they probably should have. Translators on that project protested strongly against the decision, but testers were not credited ultimately on that project. Nintendo projects, people working on them as contractors through a service provider like Localsoft or like Keywords or like a lot of localization teams. They have yet to be credited for their work on Nintendo titles. Just because this happens a lot and is part of the business, that doesn't mean it's actually fair or right. And the fact that these companies are unable to give any reasonable explanation for omitting testers, translators, and what have you, they don't really have any excuse. They're just meh. They're not arsed, and the localization service themselves are also not arsed and going to bat for you because it would cost them more money. If you're able to say, hey, I worked on these games and they were well known for their great localization, I want more money. The localization management team would be like, yeah, no, I don't want that. Got people trying to post links in chat. All right, anyway, if you look at the credits for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, you will notice that only 6 people are credited for localizing a full title that's available in 8 languages. How did they pull that off? They got a couple of bilingual people who probably weren't paid double for their work, right? For doing 2 languages, at least? Or one guy who somehow can do 3? No, there were more people working on it. That's what really happened. Anyway, it's localized part of a team of around 25 translators, because you would have multiple people on each language taking chunks of the game, so that you don't have one guy who has to start at the start of the game, go all the way through the game and translate the whole thing. You have one guy who does this bit of the game, and you have another guy who'll do this bit of the game, and you have another guy who'll do this bit of the game, and so on, so that you can get this done faster. Not 6 people somehow doing 8 languages all by themselves. No. But they didn't get credited like that. We never openly told that we wouldn't be credited. It's just when the game is eventually launched, you find you're not in the credits. And that does happen. You'll also see, like, the other side of the credits issue is that you'll see developers who worked on the game but weren't there when the game launched also not in the credits. And that is also a shitty thing to do, but that is a different issue. Agencies have everything to gain from keeping their vendors and the translators in the dark. So this is basically saying that services like LocalSoft, services like Keywords or what have you, benefit from you not getting credited for the work you do. Because it allows them to keep their costs down. You're anonymous. You can be replaced easily. Instead of, hey, you're that guy who worked on that game that was really well localized. Yeah, I want you on my team. Okay. Well, now I know that my services are in demand. I can ask for more money, right? They don't want that for very obvious reasons, so they're not your friend in that case. They claim that LocalSoft leaders told staff to avoid discussing workplace issues with their colleagues. That is obviously a big red flag for your management team does not have your best interests at heart. There's a very perceptible don't tell mentality in this line of work, so yeah, don't rock the boat because it means we'll have to pay you more. When the whole project was done, it took me months to get some steady work going again, as I had been unavailable for so long. So logically, I felt robbed, but in all too familiar way, which says a lot about this line of work. So because they're under like 10-year NDAs, they can't tell you what they've been doing for the last however many months. So when it comes time to looking for more localization work, you've been absent, effectively, from the industry for months, and you can't tell them what you've been doing for those time. And the way localization in a lot of ways works, it's project-based. So you're hired on for a couple of months for this project. And if the team or the localization team reach out to you and you're not available, you go to the bottom of the list now for the next project. So getting work afterwards is obviously going to be very difficult. And if you can't tell them what you've been doing for that length of time, all you can say is, I was working on a different game. What game? I can't tell you. And it's like, do I trust you, or are you bullshitting? You know, that's why it's bad. You can't put these things on your CV or anything. You can't say I worked on Tears of the Kingdom. You can't say that for another 10 years, basically. It is nigh impossible for translators to push back against this structure, and again, that's the way they want it. And the answer, as usual, to all of these workplace issues and labor issues is a union. It's really the only way. You need group collaborative pushback. Doing it by yourself is not going to work because they just won't hire you. Like, that's the end of it. But if everybody does it, like, they need people to work on these games. And keeping you anonymous means you're very easy to replace, whereas if you're well known, i.e. by a union, they can't replace the entire union. That's the way it works. That's where you have solidarity. That's where you have protection. Anyway, last thing we're looking at is, this is why we can't have nice things. Embracer secures new 600 million euro revolving credit facility. So, what's a revolving credit facility? Because I had to look this up. And if they had explained it in a correct way and not in some ridiculous financial term, I might have made a lot more sense. A revolving credit facility is your ability to take out loans and repay them. That's it. So basically, them having a 600 million euro that's the cap now. They can take out loans up to that much and no more. Up until then, they were on a 420 million, blaze it, euro thing. So it's gone up somehow. Somehow Embracer's behavior over the last year or so means banks are comfortable with giving them more money. Okay? Why? Are you not paying attention at all to this company? You should be giving them less money, if anything. Thanks to the significant measures taken throughout the current calendar year, significant measures here is layoffs and cancellations and firings and ruining of people's lives and careers. That's what significant measures are here. We have strengthened our financial structure and responsibly reduced our responsible reduction by firing thousands of people. Coming from Lars, the CEO, who kept his job, of course, and is now rewarded for it. Anyway, the banks involved shouldn't really be of any... shouldn't surprise anybody. BNP Paribas, Citibank, of course. JP Morgan's in there somewhere. Right there they are, JP Morgan. It's the people you think it is. Anyway, Embracer will continue to infect the games industry, and now they've been given more money. Okay. Some things going on with the community. Doom fans go too far. Port the shooter to a sex toy. So again, can it run Doom? It turns out a fleshlight can indeed run Doom. So this is from a YouTuber who does this kind of thing. He just tries to port Doom onto ridiculous things. Things like calculators and lawnmowers and ATMs. Got it running inside Fortnite. His last thing that he worked on was an electronic toothbrush that for some reason had a screen. Who knows why? Anyway, now he has it running on this fleshlight thing. That also has its own inbuilt screen. Why? I guess you put porn on the screen. I don't know. Anyway, also has buttons that you can't see, but there are buttons like up here that are not visible in this GIF. And every time you kill a demon, you get one pump on your little man. This is going to be the most frustrating fucking session you're likely to have. So I haven't come in 8 hours, fuck's sake. Anyway, yeah, stop this nonsense. But also, good job. It's very impressive. Anyway, moving on. What else is happening in the community? So the Fallout London mod that we've talked about here a little bit was meant to be a very large mod that was going to be built off of Fallout 4. It's going to take you to England and what's going on, or London specifically, and what's going on in the Fallout universe around then. It is completely community made, has no input from Bethesda and so on. And it not having any input from Bethesda is why this is happening. So you're going to have to downgrade your version of Fallout 4 if you want to play Fallout London, the mod. So as we talked about the last time the Fallout London mod had come up, the issue was that the next gen update that Bethesda put out for Fallout 4 it's kind of fucked a lot of what was going on with the mod. As we talked about before, Bethesda didn't really reach out to any of the mod team, any of the mod community to talk about what was going into the next gen release. They just dumped it out there with so many bugs, as Bethesda do, and said, lol, you figure it out. They're continuing to put out updates to the next gen update and so on, but it is still quite broken. And Fallout London team are like, if we're ever going to get this out, we're just going to have to go back to the old gen version, which was fine, and they were working on that for a very long time. They feel that is very stable and they can push that out, whereas building it off the next gen update, there's too many things that are going wrong. It's too easy to crash and so on, even more than usual. It's not like the Bethesda games are known for crashing or anything. At the 11th hour, we've discovered that the next-gen version of Fallout 4, even after all of its updates, is just not stable enough, and we are now going out with the old version, thus the need for a downgrade. The downgrade will be handled as part of the Fallout 4 mod, so you won't have to do anything additional. You won't have to go looking for different servers to find the downgrade patch and so on. The mod itself will take care of that. It's been an utter frustration, and every setback requires testing process to restart, which is why we decided to go with the downgrader route, and when the next gen is sorted, update it for that instead. So what they're talking about there is how Fallout 4's next gen release 1 was released without anyone really knowing about it, so they had to retest a bunch of stuff. And then every time they put out an update, because they don't talk to the community about what's in the update, they have to test everything again. So it's constantly having to restart their testing pipeline. This is a substantial mod. It's effectively its own Fallout game. As you might imagine, testing for that's going to be extensive. And the team isn't exactly big enough for that kind of thing. So rather than having to restart their testing every couple of months, because Bethesda decides to shit out another update, they're just going to go back to the thing that they knew was stable, and they're just going to put it out for that. And then they're going to wait for Bethesda to stop updating the next gen patch, and then they can work on it from there. Once again, Bethesda lets their customers do QA for them. Right. Anyway, we will leave. Since this is the only one that has any actual gameplay in it, we will leave Angerfoot to play in the background. Anyway, that is your news for the 8th to the 14th of July 2024. So some updates there. Don't even remember what they were. Emio game, like we don't know anything about it. Nintendo put out a teaser, and that's literally all. That's all Nintendo wanted us to know about it. It's a thing, and a guy, he has a bag on his head, and it's creepy. May or may not be being developed by Bloober Team. Possible. It seems likely it is. I don't think Nintendo have a team that would be doing that kind of stuff, or would have the experience for it right now. So I guess we'll see. El Paso Elsewhere is getting a PS5 release, so that's good. I'm interested to see that. Deathbound is also out pretty soon. Next month. Early next month. PlayStation Plus monthly games. If you didn't own any of them already, there's some decent ones there. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is standout for me, but that's because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. If you had not played Final Fantasy VII or had no particular attachment to Final Fantasy VII, it's just no real reason for you to ever play it. It doesn't really work as a standalone thing. Path of the Righteous, again, if you are into tabletop role playing like D&D, like Baldur's Gate 3, that will be a very good game for you as well. Remnant 2, I guess if you're into shooters, but honestly there are better shooters out there, and I wasn't exactly pulled in by its story or by its setting or anything like that. It just felt very whatever to me. I don't remember what else was out there. A Summoner, Jesus, as a classic. That is a huge blaster. I can't exactly advise you to play it because it's not good. But I liked it when I did play it. I certainly have a lot of nostalgia for it. Except for that one part where it was extremely difficult to get past, and you had to pretty much, in a game that does not have a stealth mechanic whatsoever, I had to try to stealth my way into the castle. So it was tricky. Anyway, new releases, we see Angerfoot. It will be a fun Devolver Digital time. I'm mostly looking forward to see people speedrun it more than anything else, because it seems like a very game that is really there for speedrunning. Otherwise, it seems like I think it'll be a little too frustrating to play because of how easy it is for you to die. Let's put it that way. And the Once Human, the trailer doesn't do it any services. Honestly, if you have any interest in it at all, watch something else, because that trailer was basically useless. Tell you what kind of game it was. Industry bullshit. So the shit going on with Game Pass obviously is the corporate pressure is coming down on top of them now. They don't just have all the money in the world. They don't just have the war chest. They need to prove it, that $69 billion in Activision was a good investment. And they went through a lot of bullshit to go through. Like, that cost them more than $69 billion because of all of the, the lengthy, it's not a lawsuit. I'm trying to think of the word for it. Appeals, I guess, from a lot of the different people in the industry saying that this was a bad deal, that this would create a monopoly, so they would have had to pay a lot of legal fees around that. Talking to people, whining and dining people to get them to, have a favorable approach to it. Hey, Banana, how you getting on? So pushing the money up, taking away value, and having you pay more for less. This is the beginning of inshitification of the Game Pass. Much in the same way that Netflix puts up the price of its subscription without really changing any of the value of it, even putting ads into it that you now have to pay to get rid of. Like, that was kind of the whole deal of Netflix, was that there were no ads. It was its best fucking feature, really. It's just none of the shit. It's just the TV show I want to watch. Done. Or the film I want to watch. And that's the end of it. I don't have to see any ads. Anyway, it has ads now? Netflix? Yeah, it does. If you have the basic subscription for Netflix, it has ads. You have to pay for a higher tier if you don't want ads for Netflix. I think Disney Plus is the same, and Hulu. A lot of them are doing the same thing because they're not getting the money out of the subscriptions. Or they're not getting enough money out of the subscription. They're getting money out of it, and they're getting decent money out of it. But it's not enough. It's not enough for the shareholders, Shareholders always need more money. I guess they get fed by money. I don't know. They have to eat it, maybe? Is that why? Is that why they always need more? I don't know. That must be it. Are they a completely different species of human being? Some subspecies of humans that subsist entirely off money and nothing else. Anyway, Game Pass is going that way. Not with ads, obviously, but it is going with the way of, we are going to try to get more out of you, and we're going to see how little value we can provide you. That will keep you sticking around begrudgingly. That's kind of the way they're going. Taking away the day one releases for their exclusives is not a good thing. Like, it is objectively a worse deal now. You are paying more and you are getting less. The only good deal for the Game Pass now is the PC one. That's it. That doesn't have the day one restriction yet. Doesn't have it yet. Sure, it will eventually, but it doesn't have it now. So they want us to buy the games then, and then it goes on Game Pass. Eventually, it'll go on Game Pass, and then I guess the eventually is. How long do you want to wait? How long do you want to wait for your friends who are now playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6 because they bought it, and they're ranking up and they're having fun? We're playing the new Jazz. When are you going to jump in and play the game with us? I'm waiting for it to come out on Game Pass. When's that going to be? Is it going to be in a month? Is it going to be in 6 months? Is it going to be in a year? Going to be in 2 years? They're going to wait for the next Call of Duty and then they'll put the old one on Game Pass? Friends will have moved on. They'll have bought the new one. That's kind of what they're going for. They want you to feel FOMO, more or less. They'll probably do the same thing with Indiana Jones, Avowed, that kind of stuff. The new Indiana Jones games comes out. Are you a big indie fan? Do you really want to play it? Well, you gotta pay for it full price right now. Or wait for it to come on Game Pass, whenever that is. Who knows? They don't have a time for it. It also makes the value of putting your game on Game Pass potentially less, because you may get less money for it. So if you're a developer and Microsoft approaches you, hey, you want to be on Game Pass? We'll give you this much money. And you go, that's a lot less money than you gave us last time. And they're going, yeah, we don't have as many subscriptions anymore because people are buying the games outright instead of subscribing to Game Pass. So we can't afford to give you as much money anymore. You go, yeah, no, I'm not going to put my game on Game Pass then, thanks. So the Game Pass library gets smaller. And eventually Microsoft goes, you know what, this isn't worth it. And we're back to where we were. Xbox has no games. Or Xbox eventually does get the thing it has been pushing for this whole time, which is, we don't want to make hardware anymore. We just want to be a service that you can run off your PC, that you can run off your Amazon Fire Stick, you can run off your phone, whatever. Which one happens first? Do they axe Game Pass first, or do they end up on all of everybody's devices first? Do we have an Xbox app on our PlayStation? Does that happen at some point? Maybe. Anyway, that's the Game Pass stuff. Then we had Apex Legends splitting their Battle Pass in two and having you pay double, and then not having you be able to pay for it with in-game currency. You have to only pay real money, and this is somehow a good thing for the community. It's a good thing that you are now paying double, and you are given less time to finish the Battle Pass. The Battle Pass in itself was already garbage. Pay us money for the opportunity to get all of this stuff. You still have to log in every day and grind the shit out of it to get all of the stuff in the Battle Pass. Now you have less time to do all of that, and you gotta pay for it twice. Amazing. Great. This is a good thing for your gaming community. Again, this is more EA saying, you guys are making a lot of money for us, and that's great, but we want more money. We gotta feed the shareholders, you guys. Anyway, what else was there? Nintendo not crediting its people. This is more a case of just making that a thing that people are aware of, that Nintendo only credits people who work for Nintendo. Even if you worked on the game and you developed the game and helped translate the game, if you are not a Nintendo employee, you do not get credits. Certainly makes your prospects of bulking out your CV or getting better pay at your job considerably more difficult. Anyway, and last thing on our industry bullshit side of things is banks are giving Embracer more money. Somehow they didn't look at how they've handled their company up until now and went, yeah, more money for them. That makes sense. Cool. Great. Can't wait to see what they do with that. Amazing. Anyway, community things, the Fallout London mod, you having to down patch. It's that or wait another 2 or 3 years for it to be stable enough for them to put out the Fallout London mod on next gen Fallout 4. So I can see why they're like, we're pretty much done. Like the mod is ready. Let's just put it out on the last gen version. And we'll just wait until Bethesda decide to stop updating the next gen patch, and then we can work on it properly. And the guy putting Doom on a fleshlight, impressive work, sir. Good job. What the fuck? Right. Anyway. What? Yep. He put. There's a fleshlight that has a screen for some reason. And it's, I think the deal is you're meant to buy, or you can play videos and they sync up the porn with the fleshlight, so that when the guy is going, we'll say, the machine, moves with you. Anyway, he's changed it now so that when you kill a demon in Doom, you get one pump, you get one handy. So you're gonna have to kill a lot of demons really quickly if you want to get the best juice out of it. Anyway, we're gonna move on before Twitch kills me. Here's our game card for... That's the wrong button. Here's our game card for 2024. Not too many changes from here. As you can see, Still Wakes the Deep is finished. That has a green tick now, so we are done. And I don't think I've added anything. So yes, all of the games are still much the same. This week, off stream, I've been playing still V-Rising. I'm into Act 4 now. My castle is very grand. It's definitely not a Dracula Castlevania castle just yet, but it's looking pretty good. I have hit a bit of a brick wall in that the next progress requires me to fight some bosses that are very high level, and I don't really have the equipment to deal with them. So there's going to be a lot of grinding for the next while, which I'm not particularly happy with, because the game is already taking up a lot of my time. Like, it does require a lot of investment of your time to get the most out of it. So that I'm not really making any progress now is kind of frustrating. Like, it does have a kind of off game thing, I guess, is that you can recruit servants and like transform them into your vampire thralls and what have you, and then send them out to do missions, and when you come back they'll have gathered a bunch of resources for you and that kind of thing. And in that case that is helpful, but it's only like once a day, so it takes a good while. Also, I have to fight Simon Belmont in a second, the Castlevania guy who's famous for killing vampires, so that's good. I'm glad that's happening. He's gonna kick my fucking ass, right? Anyway, as I mentioned, Still Wakes the Deep, we finished on the channel this week. It's very good. It's a fantastic feeling of presence. Like, you really do feel like you're on the oil rig. Obviously, specifically when you're outside, you're having the weather events, you're seeing the sea roiling underneath you. Again, it is a cat and mouse stealth thing that I'm not super fan of, but it doesn't really overstay its welcome too much. It's usually pretty heavily signposted when it's going to happen, so you're not getting the feeling like, oh god, really, again, this kind of thing. So I quite enjoyed it. I did feel that once you're inside the oil rig, I think it loses a bit of its personality, because it does start to just look like every horror game ever after that. It's like industrial setting, there's pipes and crates and stuff everywhere, and you're like, I feel like I've played this in every other game, every other horror game. But when it's out in the oil rig itself, that's pretty cool. That part's really interesting. I love the thing, so I enjoyed this game. Yeah, it does have some really good body horror. The monster design is really interesting. The funny thing is that I read one of the developer behind the scenes thing, and the way the monster moves, so if you've watched the Let's Play or played the game yourself, you'll know that the way the monsters move is that they have these kind of tendrils and tentacles that they fling out, and they use that to sort of pull themselves along the place, but it also makes the body kind of rotate in really weird directions. And talking to the developers in their interview, they're like, yeah, that was a bug. Like, it wasn't meant to do that. They were meant to stay in place, kind of, and just sort of move, with the tentacles and not like rotate and wobble and what have you. They're like, yeah, we left it in because it's like it looks really fucking creepy, so we just went with it. And I'm like, good shit. Okay. Yeah. So my only real takeaway is I'm not a huge fan of cat and mouse stealth, but there isn't too much of it, so it's fine. And what as much of it that is in the game, it's a bit scripted, so it's not as bad. And maybe the ending. I wasn't super huge fan of the ending, but otherwise I thought it was a really interesting game. that made that scarier. I know. It's just, why is this thing just wobbling all over the place? It's awful. Anyway, so to replace Still Wakes the Deep, we're going to pause a little bit on the Foley Fables, because I have been looking to play something with a bit more substance to it, and something that I haven't played already. So right now we're pretty deep in the Final Fantasy and Resident Evil series playthroughs, and of those games I've played, so I haven't played Final Fantasy V before, but I've played enough Final Fantasies that I know what's going on there. And Resident Evil 5 I played to death, so I know the game extremely well. Whereas the System Shock remake, I never played the original, and I did back the System Shock remake on Kickstarter, and I actually haven't got a chance to play it yet. So we're going to play that. So we're going to start playing that on Wednesday. Right now, I'm thinking it might just be for a bit. I just want to see how it plays. And if it's decent, we'll make it a part 1 and we'll do a full Let's Play. And if I find that this is a bit frustrating to play on stream, because I know the game doesn't exactly hold your hand. And it is coming from an era of PC gaming where it was very much you figure it out. We're not going to help you at all. We're not going to signpost anything. This is before Valve taught everybody that you needed to put lights on things if you want the player to go there. So this is the era before that, even. So this could be an issue, but we'll figure it out. I will probably play a little bit of it before we get started, just to see. So we're not, at least the first stream, I'm not going, what the fuck am I supposed to do? You know. Anyway, that will be the plan for this week. So schedule. Final Fantasy V on Tuesday and Friday, Resident Evil 5 Thursday and Saturday, and System Shock Remake on Wednesday. What I'm thinking is we will probably just rotate those 3 games going forward until at least one of them is finished. I think we're close to the end of Final Fantasy V. Again, I haven't played it before, so I'm not entirely sure, but it does feel like we're close to the end of it. System Shock, I am like 80% we're going to make it a full Let's Play. So, like, the stream will have to go really bad, more or less, for it to not be a full Let's Play. Let's put it that way. So we'll play that on Wednesday. And Resi 5, I know the game so well. We'll get through that. That won't be an issue. Anyway, so I'm thinking what we'll just do. Final Fantasy 5, System Shock, Resident Evil 5, Final Fantasy 5, System Shock, Resident Evil 5, and so on, until one of them is finished, and then we can do something else. Anyway, that is the plan for the rest of the week. So that's your news. It's your news update and your channel update for the 8th to the 14th of July, 2024. Let me know what you think around those games, and if you have any game suggestions, do let me know. I am open for those suggestions. If you're already on the Discord, there is a suggestions area, suggestions channel. If you want to drop in your game, you're like, hey, I like this game. I think you'll like this game. Try it out. Or I think you'll despise this game. Try it out for my amusement. That works too. I might take you up on it. This game will terrify you. Please shit your pants for my amusement. Okay, cool. Let's go with that. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I will be back on Tuesday with more Final Fantasy V. But until then, have a good rest of your day. The Gollum game. If it ever ends up free on PlayStation Plus, we will definitely do. We will do at least one video of it. If we do a full Let's Play, maybe. But if it ever ends up on PlayStation Plus, we will try it out. Or Game Pass. Or if it's ever like €1, I'm sure it must be end up on a Steam sale for like less than €1. Then we'll give it a shot. I'm not paying like actual money for it. I'll use my Steam credit to fucking buy it. Anyway, thanks Banana for keeping me company. Appreciate it. And that guy who tried to post a link, that guy can fuck off. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna head off. Have a good rest of your day, and see you guys on Tuesday. Bye bye.